Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Krishna Vallabha Giridhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Yashodanandana Brajaranarayana Yashodanandana Brajaranarayana Yashodanandana Yamunatira Vanajari Yamunatira Vanajari Munatira Vanajari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Brajaranarayana Yashodanandana Brajaranarayana Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Thank you so much, Sankarshan. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivacharya Sudarsha Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivacharya Astuttara Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se ko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Anatakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaura Pramanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nasta Prai Subhadreshu Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavat Uttam Ashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 24, Text 57. Na hi asya janmano hituhu karmano va mahipate atma mayam vinishasya parasya drashtur atmanaha na yasya janmano hitu karmano va mahipate atma mayam vinashaya parasya drastur atmanaha na yasya janmano hitu karmano va mahipate atma mayam vinashasya parasya drastur atmanaha na yasya janmano hitu karmano va mahipate atma mayam vinashasya parasya drastur atmanaha. Krishna. Parasya drastur atmanaha. Anyone else would like to chant? Anyone online would like to chant?
Nahyasya janmano hetuhu karmano va mahipate atma mayam vineshasya parasya drashturatmanaha.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Na, not. He, indeed. Asya, of him, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Janmanaha, of the appearance or taking birth. Hetuhu, there is any cause. Karmanaha, or for acting. Va, either. Mahipate, O King Mahārāja Parīkṣit. Atmamayam, the supreme compassion for the fallen souls. Vina, without. Ishasya, of the supreme controller. Parasya, of the personality of Godhead, who is beyond the material world. Drashtuhu, of the Supersoul, who witnesses everyone's activities. Atmanaha, of the Supersoul of everyone. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. O King, Mahārāja Parīkṣit, but for the Lord's personal desire, there is no cause for his appearance, disappearance, or activities. As a Supersoul, he knows everything. Consequently, there is no cause that affects him, not even the results of fruitive activities. Purport. This verse points out the difference between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and an ordinary living being. An ordinary living being receives a particular type of body according to his past activities. Karmana daiva nitrena jantur deho papatyataye. A living being is never independent and can never appear independently. Rather, one is forced to accept a body imposed upon him by Maya, according to his past karma. As explained in Bhagavad Gita 1861, Yantra Rudrani Maya. The body is a kind of machine created and offered to the living entity by the material energy under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the living entity must accept a particular type of body awarded to him by Maya, the material energy, according to his karma. One cannot independently say, give me a body like this, or give me a body like that. One must accept whatever body is offered by the material energy. This is the position of the ordinary living being. When Krishna descends, however, he does so out of his merciful compassion for the fallen souls. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 4.8, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. The Supreme Lord is not forced to appear. Indeed, no one can subject him to force, for he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone is under his control, and he is not under the control of anyone else. Foolish people who, because of a poor fund of knowledge, think that one can equal Krishna or become Krishna are condemned in every way. No one can equal or surpass Krishna, who is therefore described as Asamordva. According to the Vishvakosha dictionary, the word Maya is used in the sense of false pride and also in the sense of compassion. For an ordinary living being, the body in which he appears is his punishment. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 7.14, Daivi shagunamayi mama maya duratyaya. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But when Krishna comes, the word Maya refers to his compassion or mercy upon the devotees and fallen souls. By his potency, the Lord can deliver everyone, whether sinful or pious. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shlakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaisnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lita Shri Vishakan Vitamsha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinobandhu Jagatpati Gaupesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sita Devi Pranamami Hari Vancha Kalpatribhyascha Kripasanibhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Shukadev Goswami is now preparing Parīkṣit Maharaj for the descent of Lord Krishna. This is what Parīkṣit Maharaj has been waiting for. Tell me about Krishna, his pastimes, his devotees, his incarnations. Just like in the movie theaters, they have these trailers. Some movie is about to come out, so they show the highlights of the next movie before showing the main film. And then when the introduction to the film is about to start, everyone gets excited. So similarly, Parīkṣit Maharaj, he did a complete fast for the 7 days. He didn't eat anything, he didn't drink anything, he didn't even sleep. He was ready. So that's why Parīkṣit Maharaj's authority, or the example of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Shravanam, hearing about the Lord, is exemplified by Mahārāja Parīkṣit. Shukadev Goswami begins by explaining that the Lord's appearance, there's no cause except for the Lord's own desire to reclaim the conditioned souls. Balaram Prabhu yesterday, he mentioned how we are forced to take birth in the family that we appeared in. We're forced to have a certain type of body, type of mindset, and then we're forced to accept the situation regarding our birth. So we have no control over that. On the other hand, Lord Krishna, he decides which dynasty to appear in. He chooses who he wants as his parents. And he chooses the time, place, and circumstance. There's a beautiful description. I'd like to read it. It says, at the time of Krishna's birth, the planetary systems were automatically adjusted so that everything became auspicious. But for us, maybe we're born in the darkness. But it says here that the planetary system, they realigned just to make everything auspicious for Krishna's birth. At that time, in all directions, east, west, south, north, everywhere, there was an atmosphere of peace and prosperity. There were auspicious stars visible in the sky, and on the surface in all towns and villages or pasturing grounds, and within the minds of everyone there were signs of good fortune. When things were adjusted like this, Lord Vishnu, who is residing within the heart of every living entity, appeared in the darkness of night as the Supreme Personality of Godhead before Devaki, who also appeared as one of the demigoddesses. And just like we take nothing with us, we also come into this world with nothing. Unlike ordinary newborn babies, the Lord, he appeared with his 4 arms, bearing his weapons: conch shell, disc, club, and lotus. So this is how the Lord desired to appear in the material world. It's very dramatic, and it's very beautiful. His Grace Rajendra Nandana Prabhu, he was mentioning how when he first started reading Krishna book, one of his friends asked him, what are you reading about? He said, I'm reading about God. And he said it's better than reading comic books. Because many people, they read comic books, they want to read about someone very extraordinary, someone very powerful. But these are all just reflections of Krishna's personality. And in the previous verse, it was mentioned, Yadai dahi dharmasya, glanir bhavati bharata, abhyutanam adharmasya, tadatmanam shrijamyaham. That whenever there's a decline in religious practice and an increase in, or a prominent rise of your religion, at that time I descend myself. I have Facebook Messenger. I never go on the actual Facebook, the social media. And I decided to click on it. Everything there was bad news. Everything was bad news. Everything. You have, injustice. You have people complaining about the government, their rights. You have poor innocent people being attacked, so on. So the news, there's nothing new except for Kali Yuga symptoms. Srila Prabhupada, he made a wonderful analogy. When one gets tired of keeping a burden on his head, he will place it on his shoulder. This does not mean that he has become freed from the strains of carrying the burden. Similarly, human society, in the name of civilization, is creating one kind of trouble to avoid another kind of trouble. He says that we manufactured automobiles to carry us swiftly from one place to another, but at the same time we have created other problems. We have to construct many roads, and yet these roads are insufficient to cope with automobile congestion and traffic jams. There are also the problems of air pollution and fuel shortage. The conclusion is that the process we have manufactured to counteract or minimize our distresses do not actually put an end to our pains. It is simply an illusion. We simply place the burden from one head to the other. I was distributing books at Balboa Park, and I see this old man pass by every morning with a newspaper. I mentioned this before. I said, when you're done with this newspaper, tell me the good news that you've read. So after a few hours passed by, he came back. I said, what's the good news? Does anyone remember what he said? This was his good news. He said, there's one good thing. The USA women's national basketball team won the Olympics. This is what he considered good news. Everything else was bad. I was speaking to a guest yesterday from the lounge. His name was Ryan. And we had a nice conversation. He heard about the Krishna lounge by Peoples and OB. And we were talking about the questions that people would ask about religion. Why would God come to the material world? And how does he come here? So Srila Prabhupada, he explains there are three main reasons why God would come to the material world. One is to deliver the pious, the devotees, and to annihilate the miscreants. And the third is to reestablish the principles of religion. Srila Prabhupada was giving a lecture, and he was discussing with his disciples the difference between God and the living entity. Srila Prabhupada asked, why is the living entity superior to material nature? And the devotees were giving answers like, we are part and parcels of Krishna, this and that. And then Srila Prabhupada, he corrected them or added that because a living entity can control or manipulate the material energy. He said, without the soul pressing a button, this machine, this huge machine, cannot work. And then he said, similarly, the cosmic manifestation cannot operate without God. So it was really nice. And then he also quoted this verse, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hrideshe Arjuna Tishtate Brahmayam Sarva Bhutani Yantra Rudrani Mayaya. The translation is, the Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. After changing bodies, the living entity forgets his past deeds, but the Supersoul, as the knower of the past, present, and future, remains the witness of all his activities. When I first read this, it was very sobering. Srila Prabhupada says, behind closed doors, many people are just performing sinful activities. But if one knows that the Lord is in the heart, he'll think twice about it. Srila Prabhupada, in one sense, he defined karma as anything that helps development or pertaining to the body. The living entity gets what he deserves and is carried by the material body, which is created in the material energy under the direction of the Supersoul. As soon as the living entity is placed in a particular type of body, he has to work under the spell of that bodily situation. Nowadays, there's this operations or procedures to change how the body looks like. It's a big topic, you know, but many people don't know that the body that they received is according to one's karma. Whether one may be born in a very beautiful surrounding, or one may be suffering from the beginning of their birth, and also the type of body that we have. A very beautiful body, a body that's not so beautiful. And people want to change this. They believe that God made a mistake. They don't understand the intricacies of karma and reincarnation. This was also another subject that I was speaking to the guest last night. And he said, without karma and reincarnation, everything does not make sense. We had a nice discussion. He's from Ohio. He moved here 6 months ago. Srila Prabhupada says that the living entities belong to the eternal superior nature of the Lord, but due to contamination by the inferior nature, matter, their illusion is also eternal. The conditioned soul is therefore called Nitya Baddha, or eternally conditioned. No one can trace out of the history of his becoming conditioned at a certain date in material history. This is also another sobering truth, that we've been here so long. And just like Dravida Prabhu or someone mentioned, if you go around asking people, how would you like to get out of this material world? They're going to look at you like, what are you talking about? You know, I'm living a good life. Although material nature is considered as inferior energy, it's very difficult to get released of her clutches. Srila Prabhupada, he says that a man bound by the hands and feet cannot free himself. He must be helped by a person who is unbound. Because the bound cannot help the bound, the rescuer must be liberated. Therefore, only Lord Krishna, or his bona fide representative, the spiritual master, can release the conditioned soul. In this age, people do not like the idea of accepting a spiritual master or a guru. They think they can solve the problems themselves. And as pointed out, we have 4 defects. We have our senses are limited. We have a tendency to cheat. We're prone to be illusioned and make mistakes. Yeah, I think so. Okay. Illusion, mistake, tendency to cheat, and we have imperfect senses. So there is no way, it's basically impossible to get out of this material world. Therefore, we need a guru, a bona fide representative, to help us with our devotional service. It says one of the reasons why Krishna comes here is his mercy, compassion upon the conditioned souls. And this to me makes more sense than a God or the conception of God just letting us rot here. Someone said one wrong mistake is like a father that punishes the child for eternity. But Krishna does come to this material world. He appears here just to try to bring us back to him. In the purport, it says that the bodies that we have is a sign of our punishment. So whether one has a very beautiful body or a ugly body, this is our punishment. Just like a uniform in jail. Krishna. In the last part of the purport, it says, by his potency, the Lord can deliver everyone, whether sinful or pious. If you're driving down Grand Avenue, they usually post it during Christmas. There's a picture of Lord Jesus Christ. And then the saying is, your sins may be great, but my mercy is greater. So everyone's looking for someone to save them because they can somewhat understand that they're performing sinful activities. Just like the other day I saw a shirt, it said, you're saved, bro. Jesus is the only way. And we're the devotees, we want to uproot the desire to commit sinful activities. Therefore, we try to live a sinless life. And Srila Prabhupada, many have mentioned, he told that priest or bishop, why don't you teach your followers to be sinless? And Srila Prabhupada, in a purport, he says, according to Bhagavad Gita, a sadhu or holy man is a man in Krishna consciousness. A person may appear to be irreligious, but if he has the qualifications of Krishna consciousness wholly and fully, he is to be understood to be a sadhu. And Srila Prabhupada would point out that a sadhu is not a man with a long beard wearing saffron. And dushkritam applies to those who do not care for Krishna consciousness. Such miscreants or dushkritam are described as foolish and the lowest of mankind, even though they may be decorated with mundane education, whereas a person who is 100% engaged in Krishna consciousness is accepted as a sadhu, even though such a person may be neither learned nor well-cultured. So there's hope for all of us. Also in the purport of, I think one of the verses, it says the devotees of Lord Krishna are very much attracted by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya. This avatar of the Lord does not kill the miscreants, but delivers them by his causeless mercy. So Sankirtan is all auspicious. We cannot glorify Sankirtan properly. That's why devotees, they do harinams and home programs. They do prasadam distribution, book distribution. Because just by this Sankirtan movement, we can change the course of one's life if they are willing to accept it. Just like a good seed planted in a fertile ground, the seed will grow nicely. And the hearing is the watering of this seed. Okay, so I'll share some Sankirtan stories. So there's some good news. Starting next year, supposedly they're going to take the paid parking out of Balboa Park. I didn't read it, but they're gonna. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. The paid park. Yeah. You don't have to pay to get to the park. It's $10 for 4 hours and $16 for the whole day. So I was there at Balboa Park, and I was asking people, different questions. And one of the questions that I like to ask is, have you heard of stress? And people like that, people usually laugh the first time they hear this question. I said, and I asked this one person, young person, I asked him, what are you stressed out about? He said, my relationship, my school, my work, my parents. Basically, his whole life was full of stress, you know. So I said, do you like to read? He said, not so much. And I said, what do you like to read about? He said, I like to read about knowledge. So I gave him Science of Self-Realization. And then I asked him, do you practice any spiritual practices? And then I said, I do meditation. So I also gave him chant and be happy. I told him this is how the Beatles feel about the power of mantra meditation. And then I asked him, do you like to cook? He said, I'm not good at it, but I would like to learn. So I gave him higher taste. I said, do you like philosophy? He said, I'm taking philosophy. So I said, here, take this book called Bhagavad Gita. By this time, he has like a set of 4 or 5 books. And then I invited him to the lounge. But when they pick up a Bhagavad Gita, I like to ask them to read one of the verses from the Bhagavad Gita. And I asked them to read about attachment. So I let him read the verse that says, while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger rises. And then he said, and he told me I could see this happening, you know. When I'm thinking about a certain someone or object, I become attracted to it, attached to it. And then I told him, that's not the end. Read the next verse. And then it said, from anger, complete delusion arises. From delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. And they said, I'm going to read this book first. And then I asked them, you know, we actually print these books. And if you would like, you could give a donation. And they said, let me check my wallet. He said, this is the smallest bill that I have. He gave $50. And I said, here. And I gave him a stack that some of these Matajis made. And I said, give this to a friend. And then he said, I don't know how I'm going to carry this. I said, don't worry. So I pulled out a paper bag. And he said, you're ready. So he walked away and he shook my hand. And he said, thank you for being here. Actually, this saying, thank you for being here, a book distributor, it's not uncommon to hear this. And I was telling Ryan yesterday that everyone is telling you the opposite of what actually will make you happy, satisfaction and contentment. If you turn on the TV, the television, they're advertising something. You need this to be happy. You need to upgrade. You need this. And so he appreciated it. And then it was a very nice interaction. Okay, I'll end there. We have 4 minutes. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Chad, I see you raising your hand. Just kidding.
Hare Krishna. I bet that's not your only Sankirtan story that's happened lately. Do you have any other good ones?
Yeah, there's many. Well, what do you want to hear about? 4 minutes. A lot of people come to Balboa Park in hopes of being entertained or maybe go walk away or go home with something of value. But when I tell people how you spend so much money coming to California, to the US, you spend so much money buying things, you spend so much money taking photos and pictures of food and this and that. But I tell them, you actually don't benefit from any of these. So there was this one girl that came to my table, and I said, "Where are you from?" And she said, "I'm from Boston." And I asked her, "How is the East Coast?" I've never been to the East Coast before. And so we're talking, and I asked her, "Do you like to read?" And she said, "I love to read." And I said, "Do you have friends that like to read?" She said, "I have friends that read." So I gave her like 2 of the stacks, you know. And then she said, "I don't think I'll have time for these books." I said, "It's not a matter of time, but it's a matter of priority." So I explained to her how even if you can just read 5 minutes a day, you can learn so much from these books. So I opened a chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Actually, I showed her a picture of the changing bodies. And Vijay Prabhu, he likes to point out, you know, he likes to show, where are you at in this journey? And they point out, you know, the young man or young woman. And then I use Vijay's trick, and I point at the old man. I say, "I'm here." And then I tell him, eventually we're all going to end up here. And then she was looking at the picture, and she was actually stunned. And I told her, if you have seen your parents grow old, they're also going through all of this changes. And I said, but there is one thing that doesn't change in the body, which is the soul. And then I let her read some of the verses in the Bhagavad Gita. How the soul can neither be burned by fire, moistened by water, withered by the wind. The soul is a primeval, eternal, and all of these wonderful things about the soul. And then she said, you know, I go to church, but they never have information about the soul like this. And I told her, not only will this book tell you about the soul, but it tells you about the 3 material natures, goodness, passion, and ignorance. And then she said, what do you mean by that? So then I let her read another verse. It says, from the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, greed develops. And from the mode of ignorance, develop foolishness, madness, and illusion. And then I told her, you're in the mode of goodness. You're searching for knowledge. And then she smiled. And then she said, I would like to take these books. How much are they? And I said, whatever you like to give, it's all donation-based. So she gave a really nice donation. And then I gave her a bag also. And then she said, you know, I'll never forget this interaction with you. Not to glorify myself, but again, this is also another phrase that book distributors, it's not uncommon to hear, you know. So in our own little way, we're trying to fulfill Srila Prabhupada's mission, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, by spreading this Sankirtan movement, and also to get others to chant the holy names of the Lord. Okay, if there's no other questions, I think we can end here. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.